Welcome to the Guelph Real Estate Report podcast with your host and Guelph Realtor, Ryan Waller. This podcast is designed to provide information for those buying and selling homes in the Guelph area to make the process more informative, fun, and a little less stressful. Now, on with the show.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Guelph Real Estate Report podcast. My name is Ryan Waller. I work with my wife here in Guelph as Guelph Real Estate Agents. And today we are going to talk about the February 2025 sales. Have you ever been scrolling Realtor.ca and noticed that there are two listings for the same house? Price is almost the same. Description is almost the same. Photos are pretty much identical. But it's just listed twice. That's because the listing realtor has listed it in multiple real estate boards, and each board is reporting the listing. So that's why you may see it twice. Otherwise, it's pretty much identical. Beth and I used to do that for our listings as well. We'd have a listing in the Guelph Real Estate Board, and we would also list it in the Toronto Real Estate Board, where we were also members. It just helps to get exposure to more real estate agents, especially into Toronto, with the largest real estate board in the country. But in December 2024, the Guelph Real Estate Board dissolved, and a bunch of other regional real estate boards joined forces with the Toronto Real Estate Board. And you may wonder, okay, well, why are you telling me this, or who cares? The reason is because on the back end of our system, migrating from an old system to a new system, anybody who's gone through this in their job can empathize that it's sometimes a bit tricky and there are some hurdles to get over. And it has been a hurdle to get over some of the data and getting correct information, or getting information that is posting in both real estate boards. And so as we got through December and as we got through January, the numbers were a bit dicey. It was hard to report. You had to pull information from multiple sources. But as we're into February and only new listings are going into the new system, it's getting a little cleaner. So we have a better view of the data as we roll into the spring here. So I do have February numbers. I've cross-referenced them between two different real estate boards just to make sure I've captured everything I can. There may still be the odd sale that comes in or out, but for the most part, I've captured 99.9% of the data that is going to be relevant for the discussion today. Okay, let's get into it. Many years ago, when I used to work in the corporate world, we used to talk about the validity of different data points, but the difference in those data points. And oftentimes when you see real estate numbers from realtors, if you're on social media, you'll see one real estate agent that says the market is down 10% in January and another that says that it's down 2%. And they both may be right. It just may be that they're reporting on different things. One may be reporting on average price. One may be reporting on the number of houses sold. There's no real consistency in how information is reported. And so therefore, multiple data points, minus 10% and minus 2%, could be correct. So for the sake of today, I'm going to be very clear about the numbers that we talk about. I don't like using averages, but we'll briefly talk about them here. What we're going to be looking at are February 2025 numbers, sales numbers, versus prior Februaries, to give some context to how this time of year generally performs and how 2025 performed. And in fairness, the last 5 years have been a little bit volatile. February 2020 was just before the pandemic. February 2021 was sort of in the one of the higher months, just because there was still a lot of activity happening. February 2022, especially towards the end, was the peak in history of the Canadian real estate market. And so it's unfair to really give a lot of weight to some of those months, but I can tell you that February 2025, looking at it over a longer range than that even, was a bit of an anomaly. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at are the unit sales. And this is a pretty simple measure. how many houses sold. And this is compared to 2020 to now, so a 5-year period. And I can tell you that February 2025 was low. Based on the data that I have in here, we saw 121 houses that sold in February 2025. Compare that to last year, it was 149. Compare that to 2023, it was 137. And then the prior 3 Februaries, we were in the 200s. 2022 was 245, 2021 was 247, and 2020 was 211. So this year we are at 121. And it may change slightly, but that looks like where we're going to roll up around, which is half of the volume, 50% less sales than 2021 or 2022. So that's worth noting in itself. The number of units is down significantly. If you want to base it on the actual percentages, unit volume is down around 19% versus last year. And for units to be down that significantly in the same month year over year, yes, weather probably played a bit of a role in it. 2024 winter was, it almost didn't exist. But there has to be something that's holding back the market if we are down 20%. And it simply means, in the simplest terms, which is what we like to talk in, buyers and sellers just weren't coming together for whatever reason. There was something holding buyers back from proceeding with a sale. There was something holding sellers back from selling their home. And if you think about negotiation, at some point, whatever that price may be, a buyer is going to say, yes, I like that price. And a seller is going to say, yes, I'm comfortable selling at that price. But in February, we didn't get there. Either buyers weren't buying or sellers weren't selling. In terms of dollar volume, and again, this is a very simple measure. You take the prices of all the houses that sold, all 121, add them up, and compare that to the prior year. That number is down 20%. So a significant drop in the overall dollar volume of houses that have sold. And unit volume and dollar volume are the two measures that we like to use because you're not working with averages. There's nothing about it other than simply adding up the total numbers and comparing them versus a prior year. However, some people like to use the average price as a key measure, and we don't like using average price because from our perspective, the average price can be easily influenced by a number of lower priced homes selling or a number of higher priced homes selling. And from our perspective, that is not really a measure of how the market is doing. It is a measure of the mix of houses that have sold during the period of time. A lot of times people think if the average price is down, their house has gone down that same value. And it's not true at all. It simply comes down to what has sold in a given month. So there's your quick hit on the Guelph real estate market in February. Unit sales down 19%. Dollar volume sales down about 20%. And the average price is almost flat. Of course, for the sake of time, we didn't get into things like neighborhood statistics or other measures, but if you do have other questions on the Guelph real estate market that are not covered here, feel free to send us an email or give us a call or visit us online at bethandryan.ca. Talk to you later.